for first place, $8,000 for second place, a $7,000 disparity. So these guys definitely need to put on their hiking shoes if they want to climb this mountain. That's for sure.
Yeah, and one thing that I think is really cool about this tournament format, with looking at the loser bracket, is Bomber and MMA have actually been the final ones to knock out every team in the tournament so far. It would be cool to see, you know, reigning champ come back, knock every single team out of the tournament himself. Be a cool thing to see.
Especially after that insane intro video, you know, Bomber he was waiting to see if there was challengers. He finally found some, and they beat him earlier here in MC and HUK. Now maybe it's time to apply some of the dominance that we saw out of him last year in Washington.
Well, it's evident that both of these teams are very hungry for the win, and we're going to find out. Gentlemen, before we get to the finals, last thoughts about this matchup, starting with you, Vibe.
It should be better than the last one. I feel like Bomber and MMA have really shown throughout this tournament what they're capable of, and it's definitely winning. They're very, very good players. I would love to see them come out with maybe some new stuff in this next series. Maybe a ghost build like we talked about. That would be awesome to see. But I still do give a slight edge to HUK and MC because they're just crazy dominant.
I feel the same way. I feel like it's unlikely they will go for Ghost because maybe they're not fortunate enough to count TT1 as one of their friends. And in this case, I really hope they try something different and at least win the first best of 5, and then so that we will have a second best of 3.
Well, we're going to find out right now. We're going to kick it over for the final time over to Nathanius and Rotterdam. Boys, take us home.
Thank you very much, Greetorp. We are so excited. You guys in the crowd seem so excited. I love these little signs, these cheerfuls. Yep. It's good they didn't get eliminated super fast because, you know, it takes a little time to remake those signs, Roddy.
Yeah, absolutely. The Terran Dream Team is still alive. And the Thundersticks as well, adding a lot of extra, you know, just excitement. Like Andre said, the crowd has been awesome so far. And we are ready for the grand finals of the Red Bull Battlegrounds 2015 as we are loaded into our first map on Terraform.
That's right. It's time to kick it off. The last matchup of the night. In the bottom right position, we have the blue Terran Archon merged together. It's MMA and Bomber.
And on the left top side of Terraform, we're looking at the main base of our Red Archon. They are so confident. Give it up for HUK and MC.
They said nobody could beat them right now, Roddy. Protoss is not OP, HUK and MC are.
Yeah, I like that. Good line. I think he studied for it, you know. He had a couple best of 3s to think about it. And I was like, all right, HUK, well done. Very quick Nexus going down on the low ground there. It's going to be a very quick factory. You know, Nate, I watched the series earlier today, and I felt if there's one thing which I truly felt was the downfall of Bomber and MMA, I felt it was their inability to shut down those warp prisms. They just did too much, and especially they did it for too long. It wasn't a lot of damage once. No, it was a lot of damage, a little bit of damage, more damage. It just kept on going.
Yeah, and I honestly feel like dealing with those warp prisms can be so tricky. And there are a lot of players. We saw even Beastie QXC in their matches against Protoss in the Santa Monica playoffs. They liked a little bit of that Viking or Fast Cyclone play. I mean, obviously I've shown today I like my Fast Cyclone play against this sort of thing. But you have to be so aware of the other options the Protoss player could also go for. And in this instance, they're going to open up once again with a fast starport. We're going to see the mine play. They already busted this out against HUK and MC in the first series they played today.
Yeah, that was going to be the very first scout for our Red Archon team. It's going to make sure there is no proxy factory, anything like that. But the factory is still quick. There has been no probe scout. As you can see right now, these are the eyes on the map. This is the only time that they're actually checking this side of the map. You know, scouting for proxies is nice, Nate, but it's also very nice to know what's actually going on the other side of the map.
Yeah, they are going to be defensively postured. We look at the Terrans like that. The Widow Mine is tucked by the Orbital Command in case an Oracle were to fly in. So it would be an easy kill.
Yeah, I like that. Of course, Legacy is going to make this game quite crazy, right? There are so many different build orders, even the start with more workers. It's just a completely different game in so many ways. But it doesn't mean that you don't have to forget about the good old dirty Protoss cheese. You know, proxy Stargates is still going to be a thing as well. Oracles, they will still kill your SCVs very rapidly.
Yeah, we already saw HUK and MC actually bring that out on Bridgehead against these guys earlier today. And I think that's one of the biggest strengths is, you know, they open with this Adept, they delay this expansion just a little bit, but look at the War Prism follow-up. They just have such a large repertoire of builds, it's impossible to know what they're going to do.
Yeah, showing us a lot of variety in their openings, and I like this already. You know, they're 10 workers ahead, they're going to have 4-gate War Prism, and with this build that Bomber and MMA are going for, yes, it's going to be very strong aggressively. Let's see how much damage they will be able to do, but at home they won't have a whole lot of production, so this is going to be quite dicey. Mothership Core's a little bit out of position. Force fields will go down.
Yeah, Solid Force is actually pushing a good number of the Marines away. There's the overcharge on the pylons, and there actually is enough energy to overcharge another pylon if they can make it to the north of their base, but so far losing absolutely nothing.
Nah, this was so good for them already. A couple of probes did take damage. There are Hellions in the natural. They will be able to do a little bit of work because the Mothership Core is out of position. It's very low in energy as well. The Mothership Core will go down, not before casting one photon overcharge. So that's something, but let's not forget about that War Prism that's heading across the map, and a lot of adepts will make their way into the main base of Bomber and MMA.
Yeah, this Widowmine really needs to do a good job of killing some economy, really pushing these guys back. Those targets on those probes are giving me a little bit of anxiety. The Observer is in position now, and that War Prism, here it comes.
Imagine if they can just shut down the Prism with a Widowmine shot or something like that. That would be absolutely phenomenal. HUK and MC took so much economic damage then, Nate. Only 24 workers. They were 10 workers ahead. Right now, they're 8 workers down. They find the Prism as well. This is so big for Bomber and MMA.
This is really, really important. They have a Viking on the way as well. This will be a phenomenal answer to this War Prism. And honestly, that's been the biggest key to success. We have an Adept doing a little bit of harass here, but it's not able to really cause too much disruption just yet. It hasn't equalized that worker loss.
No, that one Adept will make its way into the main base. It will just spot that everything looks very standard. Widowmine is going to do friendly fire. No, it's actually not going to shoot at all. This Prism is perhaps going to go down over here. That Widowmine will not be able to burrow in time. Unfortunate.
Yeah, the Viking is. I need to be careful. That's a fully loaded War Prism.
Oh my god.
That'd be a lot of resources lost if that got picked off, Kev.
Yep, the Mothership Core is just now being rebuilt, by the way, so it's not going to have a whole lot of energy. We saw it before, you know, 3-4 photon overcharge going down, and life is good defending as a Protoss. When you only have 1 or 2 to work with, it's very easy to avoid a pylon that has photon overcharge on it. So I kind of like this start for Bomber and MMA, needless to say. You know, they're up in workers, or at least 1 worker ahead. And besides the robotics facility, there isn't really a whole lot of tech to work with right now.
Yeah, and even though it's, you know, even workers, they have meals as well. So that economy is still raining down, going very well for Bomber and MMA. They've got a good amount of economy behind this, and this is the kind of start they need, considering that they have to win 2 full series in order to win the championship.
And that's such a great way to scout for Protoss. That's something we're going to see for years and years, unless it gets changed, of course. There's an Observer now in the natural as well. Let's not forget that we are in the grand finals, but Bomber and MMA come from the lower bracket. They need to win this best of 5, and if they do, then we're heading into a brand new best of 3. However, if HUK and MC win this best of 5, then it's all over, and they will be Red Bull Battlegrounds champions.
Yeah, it would be such an iconic story for these guys. I mean, both not really having success recently in Battlegrounds. MC with his championship years ago, HUK with his participation, but never finding that trophy. There's a lot on the line for both teams in this series.
And of course, Bomber is still our reigning champ. It was a very different year. We're playing Heart of the Swarm. It was a 1v1 tournament, no Archon mode, but he is still the reigning champ of Battlegrounds.
We have these Adepts continue to shark around looking for anything there is to be seen. Blink is on the way. We have a Templar Archives coming into, and these Stalkers more than ready to receive this medevac. And they'll push this back from Bomber and MMA.
Hidden command center as well on the right top side of the map. I don't think that HUK and MC are aware of this yet. This could be a phenomenal play.
If this is a really big deal. You know, it could be possible that HUK and MC's big aggressive explosions are triggered by those, you know, the taking of additional bases and trying to get up in their face. But we do have a pause. Hopefully everything's all right.
Yep, it should be fine real soon as we're still into the game. Nobody dropped, Nate. That's the most important thing over here. Take a look at the supplies. Not sure if all players still wearing the headsets. Yes, they do. Always careful. I mean, I've been incredibly impressed so far with what HUK and MC have shown us, and I really like the attitude as well. It's like, yeah, Protoss might be good, but it's not Protoss, Nate. It's us.
Yeah, it's a really confident thing to say, especially considering that we're sure to see them competing together again in further tournaments down the line, especially as Legacy of the Void's release date gets closer and closer. For those of you that have been following the tournament circuit, it was announced not more than a week ago, the official release date, November 10th. You'll be able to play Legacy of the Void, team up with your own Archon buddies yourself.
Yep, it sounds like it's far away, but it's not at all. You know, this month is gonna fly by, then we have 1 month, of course, leading up to BlizzCon as well, and then before you know it, we will all be completely switched to this game, Legacy of the Void, and we'll put Heart of the Swarm to rest. It was a good game, Nate.
Yeah, I'd say.
Amazing game.
A lot of great memories, Kev.
Yes. Especially all the PVTs we cast together, Nate. My highlight.
I'm glad to be doing more already in a brand new game. Storm is on the way for HUK and MC. I love that they continue to get those Immortals. They're so beefy, especially with the way that their shield ability works nowadays. If you try to focus them down, you usually end up getting punished pretty badly for it.
Yep, it's very cool how Hardened Shield has changed. However, of course, you still have to be careful. If the Marine count gets too high, they can still be very effective against Immortal, but that's, of course, where Storm comes into play. The mix that HUK and MC are going for, it's just a very, very strong one. And I do agree with the boys at the desk. I think a couple of Ghosts would be phenomenal against this army composition, because if you think about it, you know, Adepts, they have a lot of shields, so Ghosts are great. High Templars, obviously, you want to get... Oh, this Observer is going to see the SCVs.
Where are your SCVs going, Bomber? And that's a good question, as they will reveal to him, or excuse me, to the Protoss Archon, that there is a hidden base.
Ghost Academy is halfway done, by the way, Nate, and I'm so happy to see it, because a couple of EMPs raining down on that Protoss army, that could really change the outcome of a battle.
Yeah, this is a very important moment as they round out that army composition.
This is not working against them. They need to pick up these units. This middle line is completely exposed. These Adepts are going to ravage this line.
Yeah, that's right. 2 mules are there as well. Very, very important keys to the economy. And they're going to try to counterattack on the left side here towards that third base. We've got 2 Immortals already in position.
Wow, I felt they could have got it there.
Yeah, I mean, the Immortals are still a really threatening force. Not entirely sure.
You know, most of the observers are over here. I don't think there's any observer on the right side of the main base. So these medevacs could potentially do a lot of damage. There are, of course, still a couple Stalkers, but 4 or 5 Stalkers is in general... Well, that's not 4 or 5 Stalkers anymore, Nate.
That's quite a few, and they're going to be looking at this big medevac drop. Most of the units have it loaded on the low ground, so do need to be careful, but it also allows for defensive blinks to be very easy. You definitely do not want to try dropping up into that, but here come the Ghosts, Roddy.
Yeah, I like it, man. A mix between Widow Mines and Ghosts, and then, of course, Marines and Marauders with a few medevacs. That should be very strong against the composition that HUK and MC are heading towards. Of course, it will still come down to how good are the EMPs and how much damage will the Storms do. And you know, MC was one of the very first Protosses back then to put High Templars in Warp Prisms and then drop them to make sure they wouldn't get EMP'd easily. Well, if you play Archon mode, that's pretty much all you can focus on.
Oh, this Warp Prism flies right into a bunch of Marines. 4 Adepts inside. Lost immediately as they continue to check if they can push on that northeast base yet.
This is such an overwhelming amount of army supply. 127 against 80. A couple of probes could go down over here, perhaps even more than a couple. These Adepts still being annoying.
8 probes rocked by that Widow Mine. The Templar are going to move forward. We can see action on both sides. The Adepts hitting the northeast. Yeah, those mines really doing a good job of separating the army. It's so hard to push into this.
I mean, quite a bit of economic damage is being dealt on the other side of the map, but that will get cleaned up as well, as Bomber and MMA just have so many units to work with right now. And look at all these mines. It's a complete minefield, and there are Ghosts. How do you engage into this Terran army?
It's so difficult. One EMP on those Templar can make life so difficult. These Adepts have been continuing to be phenomenal harassment forces. The Terran army is going to push into the natural expansion. The Warp Prism does get picked up, but the army cannot come in to reinforce the natural.
No, all the High Templars are out of position. The Immortals and Adepts are making their way over right now, but the Storms, they are just so late. Photon Overcharge is going down on all of these pylons, but look at the amount of Marines and Marauders that are still alive.
Oh, this is just so much right here. A lot of these Marines are weak coming up, but they're going to run over to the main base, looking to focus down a few key structures, trying to unpower the warp gates and cut off the production of HUK and MC. Bomber and MMA are looking for this opportunity. They're going to deny the upgrade. +2 armor denied. They're going to kill the second forge. +2 attack denied. They've shut down the upgrades of the Protoss force. The Adepts are in position, but more Widow Mines are going to move in and seal off this natural expansion.
So many mines. Archons, of course, great against mines, but not that many. Still so many Marines and Marauders alive in the main base as well. These Adepts are trying to do whatever they can to stabilize.
There's so many medevacs.
83 against 20.
This army is being healed so well. They're doing a great job of knocking this down. The Immortals are dead. There's no more power on these gateways. I think Bomber and MMA have managed to do it. They've shut them down. GG!
Wow, what a way to start these grand finals. Our Terran Archon stepping it up a notch, Nate. This awesome game by them, pretty much flawless from start to finish. Of course, you know, it really looked like the initial opening with the Marines and the Widow Mine. It looked like HUK and MC were on top of it. Then suddenly they found an opening. They killed a bunch of probes, and the Warp Prism was just not able to do anything on the other side of the map because, you know, they weren't really mining in their main base anymore, so there was no money to warp in the depths. And at a certain point, by the time they finally had money, Bomber and MMA were just so ready to deal with that Prism.
Yeah, absolutely phenomenal play from them, really adapting to the weaknesses of their strategy. And moving into the Widow Mines, getting ghosts. You know, sometimes us Terrans can do things other than wine, Roddy. No, it's been known to happen occasionally.
Absolutely. No, it wasn't awesome. If you look at that spread on the low ground, what they had there in the end of the game on Terraform, I have no idea how you engage into that. You know, it almost say make Colossus. Then again, you know, who makes Colossus in Legacy of the Void? They do less damage than they did in Heart of the Swarm. So they've really fallen out of fashion. But I feel, you know, the way that they approached that and the unit setup that they were going for. Let's take another look at a couple of the highlights, actually, of Terraform. I think this is soon where it starts. You know, with that opening, it looked like it wasn't going to do a whole lot of damage. And then suddenly they did such a great job with the Hellions on the low ground. That's just where things completely swing into their favor.
Yeah, they got a lot of worker kills, and that just ramped them up so quickly. This ninja base created a little bit of moment of tension. They were able to mine resources off of it for quite some time, even with the Adept Harass that was brought there. But plays like this, you prevent the Terran from needing to run back home in this minefield.
Yeah, look at that spread. Like, how are you supposed to engage into that? And let's not forget, it's not just a single observer and you're fine. If you have one observer, scan will go down, you lose your observer, and then suddenly you have to eat those mine shots. It's very tricky, and I love how they left enough units on the low ground, but at the same time sent an overwhelming amount of units into the main base to make sure that, you know, 7, 8, 9 adepts was just not going to be enough to stop this force.
Yeah, really well played by Bomber and MMA to secure the first map. Yes, awesome people in the crowd that have been sticking with us today.
For sure, Nate. It's always a pleasure to go to Washington, D.C. I mean, last year, we've said this many times, not just here, not just last year when we were in Washington, but 2014 Battlegrounds was one of the most amazing events ever, and today it's also been just an awesome day.
It's been a fantastic day for some StarCraft action. Already nice to see those adjustments being made, to see that MC and HUK aren't completely unstoppable, Roddy.
I'd love to see this go to the final best of 3, and then I truly don't care who wins, whether Bomber defensive title or if we're going to have a new champion in the name of HUK and MC. But I would love to see as many games as possible.
That's right. And little Hulk Archon love there for our Protoss team as we are getting the players into the lobby now for the second map.
Which is going to be on, Nate. My eyesight is not good enough.
That was in Korean. You would have had a hard time reading it anyway, Kev.
What do you know about my Korean, Nate?
Well, HUK and MC, I mean, we talk about the build orders, the way that they opened up. I'd be surprised if they kept going with like this fast mine drop strategy. It seems a little strange to me.
Yeah, like it seems if it doesn't do a whole lot of damage, that you just have nothing on the other side of the map. If then 4 adepts show up in your main base, even if they pull SCVs, we all know how good adepts are against SCVs. So it's definitely a risky build to roll with a couple times in a row, and at the same time, we've seen it already. HUK and MC, they show a lot of variety in their play. So going for one build, 2, 3, 4 times in a row against them, you're playing with fire already.
Yeah. So it turns out the map we're going to be playing on is Ruins of Ceres. I believe that's the green one, Kev.
Ah, that's the massive one, right?
The absolutely ginormous map. And that'll certainly make things interesting because I do believe it's a great map for War Prisms. There's a ton of airspace, a lot of cliff area available around the mains.
We haven't really seen a whole lot of Liberator play here today, right?
The patch, man.
Well, I mean, you don't have to open with them, but on a map like this, you know, where a Terran could potentially secure
the game
4
has to
or 5
go
bases.
so long. I think one of the coolest things about Legacy of the Void that's made Liberator play not happen today is the games are just so scrappy. The action starts so fast, and with Archon mode, like there's just such little turtle play. Like I'd be surprised if we saw Tier 3. We already haven't seen any Tier 3. We haven't made it to Broodlords, Battle Cruisers, Carriers, Tempest. We haven't made it to anything like that. We haven't even seen Ultralisks today. It's just been pure action from the very beginning, and it never stops.
It's really hard to get up to those capital ships, especially if there's just action non-stop. If you know your opponents are always looking for an opening, if you don't have enough units in place at a certain time, you're going to get punished immediately. Not just in 1v1. I mean, Legacy is going to be spectacular, right? There is going to be more action. There is going to be more fighting than we had in Heart of the Swarm. But in Archon mode, well, like you said, it starts and it never ends until GG.
That's right. We are loaded in, though, to map number 2, ladies and gentlemen, on Ruins of Ceres in the northeast position. We have the blue Archon team up 1-0 in this best of 5. It's Bomber and MMA. They need to win the next 2 to reset the match. In the bottom left position, we have the red Archon team looking to get their first championship in Battlegrounds. It's HUK and MC.
You think they're shaken up a little, Nate, after that first game in the grand finals?
I think they probably had a nice little chat in between maps saying, what happened with that warp prism at the end of the game? Because that was supposed to keep them from attacking us.
And what happened to the warp prism in the start of the game? He's like, well, I had no money to warp in at depths, you know, stop blaming me.
It's like, maybe if you didn't have to build units at home, I could have built units in their home.
Next time, I'll defend against 2 Hellions, Nate.
Well, I think that's the I think that shows why these guys are so good, because we would have those conversations, and they're probably just like, okay, I'll fix it.
Nate and me, we did a couple of walk-on games, and Nate, I love you, but never again.
It's just not going to happen, Kev. It's just not going to happen.
All right, scouts going down. Let's not forget, in the previous game, HUK and MC did not send a scout out once. This time they are scouting, though, very early. I want to see what they're up against. Of course, a massive map. You know, if you play against Command Center first, perhaps you can capitalize on it, but it's not going to be CC first. It's a very standard opening.
Yep, and like you said, this is a ginormous map. The probe harass, I mean, haven't we all heard the tales of the legendary HUK probe? Perhaps going to try to come in here and make life difficult for our Terran team.
Yeah, sometimes we don't know who's doing what in our command, but when it comes to harassing with a probe, it has to be HUK. Since the days of Wings of Liberty, Nate, he's been making a name for himself.
This is a very interesting position, though, with that Twilight Council. This probe, though, getting right up in his face. MMA and Bomber, this is the part where you're like, hey, get that SCV out of there.
So come on, man, why so greedy? Give me another SCV. Now 2 SCVs are making their way to the low ground. Perhaps not even really necessary.
Run for your lives. Okay, the Marines are out. The SCV lives. Whew.
So do you think it's going to be for a Dark Shrine, Nate, or just Blink Stalker play?
I'd rather wait 10 seconds.
I think DTs, actually. It just makes sense. Yeah, there we see. The probe still in position as well.
Maybe they'll even build a gateway there, too, so that they can warp in at that pylon as well.
Well, when behind, go Dark Shrine. It doesn't really have to be in the game. It can also just be in the series. Down 0-1, go Dark Shrine.
I mean, you're just feeling fine, Dark Shrine. You know, just there's never a bad time for a Dark Shrine.
No. I second that. Ever since they made it cheaper, there's pretty much no moment ever. Especially if you're saturated on 3 bases, just throw it in there. It's so good aggressively and defensively as well. Bomber and MMA have absolutely no idea yet that this is going down. But so far, it seems like they're setting themselves up pretty defensively. The Widow Mine could be for aggressive purposes, but could also just to be at home in case of an Oracle. Like you mentioned, we already saw 1 Proxy Stargate today.
Yep, and Robotics Facility is on the way now, too. So we might even see DTs worked into that Warp Prism tactic, and I love it. I mean, if we just take a look at the main base of the Terran team, there is so many different angles a Warp Prism could come into. There's
even behind the main base as well.
You could go anywhere. You could go from behind the main base to behind the natural.
Yeah, they don't even design maps like this anymore. Most of them, whoa. What did they see that scared them so much? I guess they have something in the natural. Let's take a look real quick. I think they had something in the natural, and they saw how late that Nexus was. And obviously, you know, Bomber and MMA, they're not crazy. They're like, you know, I wasn't born last night, Nate. I know the Nexus timing is not right now. Something is going on. My opponents are rushing up to something. Could be Oracles, could be Dark Templars, maybe even Blink Stalkers. Either way, let's make life easy for ourselves right now and float over that command orbital to the high ground. And I like this decision a lot.
Don't take any unnecessary risks. And this is really nice because that first DT, it didn't swing, but DT did not attack. If they're looking, though, I think, you know, one of these guys has to be glancing now.
Okay, now multiple Dark Templars will show up, and now they have revealed themselves as well. They're double orbital, so there's enough energy. There is a tank that could have been very useful against Blink Stalker play, but it's going to also make life a little bit easier against these Dark Templars.
I'm surprised they didn't wait for the Mule to call down, or at least try to bait it out for a little bit, but now they've revealed its DTs, and, you know, tank drop is... That's an interesting choice.
Yeah, I mean, if you open up with Dark Templars, you shouldn't really have a whole lot of units at home, right? And obviously, you're not going to have a Stargate. Blink is on the way. Hey, imagine if this medevac flies straight over that pylon that's researching Blink right now.
That would be awkward.
Yep. Well, change of direction. They were actually heading into the right direction.
So there's the first scan. 1 DT still blocking. The Observer, wow, flies right by that tank drop. They know what's coming. They have the information necessary to prepare a defense. We have a Warp Prism coming in now, too.
Man, this Dark Templar, he thinks he's Metal Gear Solid over here, man. He's just like hugging the edges.
These Marines are like, it's just a box, guys, don't worry.
The Solid will show up, try to get a couple of SCV kills. We'll get picked off immediately. We won't forget you, Solid Snake.
We have this tank coming in over towards the main base. There's a lot of energy for Pylon overcharges, so Probe takes a shot, and that Pylon gets to work.
Yeah, it's so good. Has to be so careful. That medevac took so much damage already with these Stalkers. Blink is 70% done, so be careful, Bomber and MA. You don't want to lose that medevac in this phase in the game. A lot of gateways, by the way. I feel this is more than just a couple of gateways, and let's take the game. I think they want to be very aggressive with the Blink Stalker follow-up.
Oh, yeah, well, I mean,
What, double tanked?
This is... What?
Nate.
This is a little too cheeky for me, Roddy. I don't know what to make of this. You have siege tanks coming out of medevac shooting at probes.
I mean, at least they're going to force these Blink Stalkers to stay at home, which is going to make them able to get enough bio units out at home. You know, Stim is only halfway done, so if Blink Stalkers would start attacking right now, that would be tricky. These medevacs will force them to stay at home for now. Do we have any aggressive weapons? Shouldn't we have more units from HUK and MC?
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised.
Okay,
There's the push out now. The War Prism is with them. It's not too many Stalkers, to be honest. I feel like what Bomber and MMA are building back home should be enough to defend against.
There is a Winter Mine there as well, so you have to be very careful. They're shooting at the Winter Mine immediately, staying out of range. Very well done what the HUK and MC are doing over here. Big warp into the main base. There aren't really a whole lot of units. Stim is getting targeted.
Oh no, the tech lab with Stim. It does get picked off. That insta warp in from the Warp Prism is just so strong. And now with depths are going to be warped in as well. I was going to say, Roddy, I thought it was holdable, but now the Warp Prism, I forgot, you know, that 2-second warp in is so powerful.
A lot of SCVs have been pulled. The Marauder helping out as well. These Widow Mines will try to get a shot off. Couple of Stalkers.
Widow Mines hurt the SCVs more than they hurt the Stalkers.
Oh,
the Observer, he knows! He sees it blinks forward. He's going to get them out of that with the tank. Oh no!
That's an absolutely phenomenal snipe there for HUK and MC, and they can keep on doing this. But hey, this is a phenomenal map for Blink Stalkers. Look at all the surface area. They can blink into the natural, they can go over the ramp, or they can just straight up blink into the main base once again. And with that Warp Prism there, reinforcing is going to be easy. This tank is doing quite a bit of damage. Good pickup there.
Yeah, I mean, the micro is nice, but more depths are being warped in inside the base. The medevac is dead. The tank is dead. And it looks like Bomber and MMA here in game number 2 are also dead. The Warp Prism has just opened up the gates of Protoss hell upon the Terran base.
Yeah, probably the best Blink Stalker map in history after Heavy Rain. GG is called, and HUK and MC will even up the series. You know, Nate, what I like most, they open up with Dark Templars. And it wasn't that crazy Dark Templar opening, right, where you killed 10, 15 SCVs. But what they did do is force them to burn multiple scans. The orbital was in the main, so, you know, it lost a little bit of production time, and a lot of SCVs weren't being produced. And at the same time, you know, even though that Nexus was later than the command center, we were looking at 40 probes against 27 SCVs, and, well, then following it up with Blink Stalkers, that's awesome.
Yeah, the income was not there. Those tanks being out on the map, killing a few probes here and there is nice, but when you're only mining off of one base, you're not really in a position to handle the warp-ins they'll make with just a couple probes lost.
It was very risky because I feel if they shut it down the first time, you know, it's all about that first blink into the main base. How effective is the first blink? Well, it was very effective, and what a huge compliment to these Protoss players to stay out of range of that one Widow Mine, because that could have made things very ugly immediately.
Losing the shields on those Stalkers really makes things uncomfortable. I mean, you lose one, of course, but then those SCVs, man, when they gang up on Stalkers, they can do a lot of damage. And we see just all the perfect reads, too. The Observer spotting the tank in both times.
And I also think this not a command center going down was perhaps a tiny bit ambitious. We didn't really mention it during the game, but, you know, you just have so little production. You're just focusing so much on your economy while you're playing on a map. Of course, yes, this is a massive map, and it could go into super late game, but it's also a phenomenal map for Blink Stalkers.
Yep, and they paid the price of this game with that greed, and HUK and MC
saw that grin. Good. You saw that grin. That's how Protoss players smile when they win with Blink Stalkers, Nate.
Oh yeah. Oh, I saw it this morning too. That's great.
Our next map, our next map is going to be played on Orbital Shipyard. Another interesting map.
Interesting. Does that mean Blink Stalkers, Roddy?
That's pretty interesting. Could be a lot of other things as well. It's a big map, so there's plenty of stuff to hide as well. Curious to see how both teams will open up over here. Score is 1-1. We are still playing a best of 5, but of course, if Bomber and MMA wins, we will have another deciding best of 3.
Yeah, very important to keep in mind, of course, this is that map that's a little bit more centered towards at least getting that 2 base, and of course that makes your 3rd base much easier to take because it's right in front of your main. I don't think we should have as much trickery, but War Prisms are still pretty good. In fact, they're pretty good on like every beta map.
I know. I think War Prisms is just going to be the backbone of Protoss in Legacy of the Void, unless a huge change happened. Of course, the game is still changing. Even just a couple days ago, we had another big patch where a couple of changes went through, like you mentioned, the Liberator and a few more things. But if the War Prism stays the way it is, well, you're going to see a lot of War Prism play in the upcoming years when it comes to Legacy of the Void.
For those of you wondering, what was the Warp Prism change? Why is it so much stronger? They did a bit of a rework. Like if you warp in units out of normal pylons, it takes about 11 seconds real time, so it's longer than it used to be.
It takes about as long as it takes to build a carrier in Heart of the Swarm, Nate.
Yes, you are actually waiting a lifetime, basically. The units you warp in actually go to your children instead of you. But if you use a Warp Prism, You actually get them so fast that it's as if you teleported to the future to get them.
Yep. And of course, the Warp Prism is faster. It has a bigger pickup range, which is a massive boost. You don't have to hover above the unit to pick it up anymore. No, you can just keep the Warp Prism rather safe behind the fighting lines and then just pick units up from a distance. You know, that's great with small units, Adept, Stalkers, whatever. But it's also great with the bigger ones. Think of Disruptors, maybe even Colossus eventually. I still refuse to bury my Colossus just yet. You know, I still believe that we are going to see it eventually, Nate.
It got a cheeky buff in one of the last patches, you know, so maybe the Colossus team will be alive again. But, you know, HUK and MC have also just shown how to perfectly synergize the unit compositions around that Adept, though. Like, it was just so surprising to see them playing today with pretty much just gateway units against Terran, and that's highly unusual.
I must still say, though, if I just look at both of the teams, both our Archons sitting on stage right now, HUK and MC seem just so much more relaxed. They seem so confident. They seem like they're having fun, you know, like you're just lathering casually on a Friday night, you know, a long work week, and then you come home, you play a couple games of StarCraft. That's almost how HUK and MC are sitting over here. They're just having fun.
Sit down, linkle in a few guys, no worries.
Walk away with potentially $15,000, which is, of course, the first place prize. Second place finishes will walk away with $8,000. Still pretty good.
Yeah, there's still a lot at stake, and it's really a big credit, of course, to all these guys coming out, playing in the qualifiers, competing, making it this far. And even though, you know, we had Bomber and MMA coming in, you know, as the champion last year, they still had a long road to go to get to where they got as well. So everybody really earned their positions here, and this is, you know, this is it.
I must say I got very excited when I knew that Bomber picked MMA, because if you think of old school Terran players, you know, if you think about the early years of StarCraft, 2011, 2010 even, 2012, there were so many big Terran fans out there, and everyone was a big fan of Bomber back then, of MMA. A couple of those Terrans have fallen off. Well, these guys, they're still here.
We just need the Dream Archon team up, get the four-way Archon, throw Boxer in there, let's do it. And bit by bit for the jokes, we are loaded in. We have a little bit of cheddar. The wheel of cheese begins to spin. In the top right corner, we have the blue Terran Archon of Bomber and MMA.
You mentioned him and they channel their spirit, Nate. Bit by bit, of course, a very old school, cheesy Terran player. Over here on the bottom side of Orbital's shipyard, we're looking at the main base of our red Archon. Give it up for HUK and MC. The crowd is starting to feel it, Nate. Washington is still awake.
It's been a great day of StarCraft action. These types of plays these were one of the biggest questions that people asked about Legacy of the Void when they announced all the economy changes. Can people still do this?
That's, of course, something that the Muslim was in particularly very, very worried about.
Well, I know that's why he still plays Heart of the Swarm, Roddy, because it's easier to 2-racks people there.
Yeah, well, you can 3-racks here. Perhaps he'll get used to it eventually. I have no idea how this is going to play out. We'll see. The Rexes, you know, of course, they're on the other side of the map, but they're still not super close, Nate. Like, I've seen Rexes closer than this.
Yeah. And I'm very interested to see how the latest change to Photon Overcharge affects a defense of something like this. Because on one hand, in Heart of the Swarm, you had to wait for the Mothership Core to get 100 energy for it. But now you pretty much can instantly throw those overcharges, but they last way, way less long.
And I do really like this, though, by Bomber and MMA, because in game number 1, HUK and MC did not probe scout at all. They did on the big map, on the 4-player map, because I guess they just wanted to know where their opponent spawned. But now when we're back at a 2-player map, you know, no scout again. So this Marine count is going to go up very rapidly. And, you know, Adepts are phenomenal against Marines early game, but there's only so much 1 or 2 Adepts can do when it's 7, 8, 9, 10 Marines.
Yeah, it's going to be very important that the overcharge is used properly, those Adepts are controlled properly, and that probes are pulled quickly enough to handle this, because I do think it'll be a very big deal. There's so many more Marines that'll come out at a time because, like you said, it's 3 racks.
Surprise, surprise. Who's there, Nate?
Yeah, here we go. The Marines and SCVs are coming in now towards that main base. Mothership Core is here. There is the, exactly, the Mothership Core. The Photon Overcharge is out of range of the bunker, so the Adept is the only thing answering.
Oh, he's mispicking. I think that Adept is trying to kill the SCV, but it's not getting it, and the Adept is so low in HP, 1 HP left.
And the Overcharge actually runs out already. already. This next one does get cast, but this bunker looks like it should be able to finish.
Yeah, and the bunker is in range of the cybernetic score, and that's where things get very, very dicey whenever you face cheese. This is starting to look pretty damn good for Bomber and MMA.
It looks like they're going to shut down their warp gate research. They'll only be able to build one Stalker, and that will be it for their production.
Okay, these adepts can intercept the reinforcements, but that doesn't change that there are like 7, 8, 9 Marines into the main base. Photon Overcharge is going to go down again. HUK and MC are still up in workers, but this mothership coordinate is starting to run very, very low on energy.
3 more buildings in the natural, depowered by those Marines. Needs to build another pylon to begin the production of units.
The probes are being pulled right now. They need to kill a lot of probes. Just killing 4, 5, 6 is not going to be enough. One more Photon Overcharge will go down. These adepts, though, Nate, have done a phenomenal job in shutting down this Marine count, because this Marine count could have been at 12 or 14 by now.
Yeah, this is a really
play.
Yeah, it's a really scary spot to be in. Just that Stalker and Zealot microing against this warp gate, not even started yet. And oh, the Zealot actually gets picked off with the Stalker. It's just a mothership core and probes to fight these Marines.
Yeah, these Marines will go down, but they'll take a couple of probes with them before they go. The worker count right now 23 against 19, and let's not forget about that incredibly late warp gate technology. They get one more probe there in the end.
Yeah, this is a really tense moment right now. The Adepts are working on this wall. 2 barracks are on the way, but there's no fighting units actually here for Bomber and MMA.
Nope, I guess the best thing you can do right now is wait until the supply depot goes low on HP, repair it rapidly with fight.
What? They just tap out, GG.
What?
They saw, I mean, there were more Stalkers going across the map. I didn't expect them to give up quite that fast.
Wow, they were still up in workers, and it was going to take a while before those depots went down.
They saw those Adepts, and they panicked, Roddy.
Wow, I actually have no idea what to say. I mean, I know there's an Indra joke somewhere to be made, but I'm not going there. But I'm a little bit in shock.
Yeah, these guys perhaps a bit shocked. They anticipated that they'd be in a better position, but you know, the barracks was still about 20 seconds away, and then they would have had another 15 or so to get the Marine out, and then 2 Marines won't actually kill the 2 Adepts. So with the extra Stalkers that were coming across the map, I can see why, but I don't see why they didn't try.
Exactly, it's the grand finals, you know? There's only so many shots you have. Let's take another look. Of course, an absolutely great judgment call by HUK and MC to send those 2 Adepts that they had. Don't keep them at home. Don't try to fight 8, 9 Marines with a bunker. No, send them across the forces and cut off the reinforcements. That was definitely the greatest call in this game.
Yeah, that decision-making certainly had a huge factor in this, because you have your warp gate delayed, your production delayed, but these Adepts were the true heroes. And you know, there's no army supply. There's 10 army supply at this moment. There were 2 Stalkers and a mothership core with those 2 Adepts. So I can see why they might think to themselves, okay, we can't do that. We don't have any units in production.
I think one of the, maybe something they could have done, Nate, is just land those 3 Rexes in the middle of the map, get 6 Marines or something, while you rapid repair your supply depots, you know, pull 5 SCVs at a time. Yes, you will end up losing 3, but as long as the Adepts are not in the main base, I don't think it's the end of the world yet. Of course, it's dicey, you know, like you said, 0 army supply against 10. Yeah, that's not pretty, but...
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough when all your production is floating in the sky and the rest of your production is building. But now it's a 2-1 lead for them, and suddenly they're very close to winning the Battlegrounds 2015 series.
If you would have told me this 30, 40 seconds ago when the cybernetic score died and that bunker was up, that right now we would be 1 map win away from crowning HUK and MC the champions of the Red Bull Battlegrounds 2015, well, I would have said, Nate, I know Protoss is good, but I don't think it's that good, that quick, but apparently it is.
Even I wouldn't have disagreed with that with all my Terran bias, Kev, but they somehow did it. We can see they are currently crushing them all. They certainly crushed those Marines and the SCVs that brought the bunker to their base. But, wow, what a turn of events.
It was very cool to see as well how that plays out, right? The proxy Rexes against the new Photon Overcharge. Photon Overcharge is still incredibly strong, but it has less range. But you can cast so many more Photon Overcharges, not just one, and then suddenly you have to pull the probe, so you need to squeeze out as many gateway units as you can. It's like, no, Photon Overcharge, and Photon Overcharge again. That's pretty much when you run out of energy early game.
Yeah, I really like the different ways you can approach that, because proxy barracks suddenly seems a lot stronger. You still have to worry about the Adepts, of course, but that Photon Overcharge is something that you can dance around a little bit more than you could in Heart of the Swarm. I still don't know how I feel about the proxy barracks play, but I feel like in a series like this, if instead of going for a proxy barracks, if you want to all in, man, I feel like Tank Banshee could even work again, just because you could finally outrange Overcharge like the old days.
Yeah. We'll see what we are going to see in game number 4. HUK and MC still looking just calm as always. Still having a good time, on the verge of winning $15,000 over here. But of course, can all still swing around. They're not there just yet. Both of them have won big tournaments in the past. You know, very cool story actually. A long time ago, HUK and MC played each other in a tournament final. And it's good to see that didn't hurt their friendship.
Yeah, it's you know, you consider your unlikely alliances, and I do like what they said at the beginning. You know, they were the only guys that came in here as, you know, quote unquote friends. I'm sure everybody else here is friendly with each other, just didn't quite seem that way in their interviews.
Oh, these two guys had nothing but love. Bomber and MMA, you saw them discuss that for a while, Nate. You saw them look at the map as well on their screen. Probably not even sure what is the best map to play right now, because there are so many things you have to worry about. You know, having a small map could be great for drops, but at the same time, you have to worry about stuff we just saw on the green map, you know, with all the blink stalkers. How much surface area is there on some of these maps? There are still a couple of old school maps in the map rotation, a couple of maps we're all very familiar with from WCS and, you know, just in general Heart of the Swarm, but there are a couple of new Legacy of the Void maps out there as well, and I do think it's safe to say, especially when it comes to those newer maps, that HUK and MC have way more experience on them.
Yeah, some of the maps, I mean, I don't think we've seen once today, Laralac Crest, for example, but it's so crazy just thinking about it, because you have all that practice on those maps, but this choice of strategy is so difficult. Yeah, they've just shown so much range in their build orders that they can go for. It's hard to pick one map and be like, oh yeah, these guys definitely don't have a strategy for this one.
Well, you can hear it already, Nate. You can see it on the main stream. We are loaded into our 4th game of the Grand Finals.
And possibly the last. On the right side of Bridgehead, we have the blue Terran Archon. It's Bomber and MMA.
And on the left side of Bridgehead, we're looking at the main base of our red Protoss Archon. One map away from winning it all. It is HUK and MC.
Well, Roddy, we are on Bridgehead, and for PVT, there's a pretty good amount of space. In the natural, you can do a little bit of cheeky Warp Prism play. We've already seen a little bit of that Reaper harass. In fact, that was how, that's how we started the day, was this map, the little Reaper, the Mind Jump, and just that non-stop harass. We had a good amount of action here, but how do they switch it up for this map now, being a potential game point?
Yeah, I think it's very difficult, Nate, because even going aggressive, you always have to worry about that prism. You always have to worry about adepts being wiped in. So at the same time, you could say maybe set yourself up very defensively. But if you do that, if you give Protoss too much time, Chrono Boost will just keep on going. And if you just never harass, well, you're going to fall 10, 12 workers behind very quickly. And that also makes it an uphill battle. So I have no idea what Bomber and MMA have in store for us for now. But what we do see, Nate, is a very quick factory.
That's right, another gas first play out of Bomber and MMA. They've been favoring this style in their quote-unquote macro games so far today against Protoss. They go for the fast mine, the fast drop. It's opened up doors for them, but so far those doors haven't led to very pleasant places.
These Marines scouting a little bit. Fortunately for them, they didn't find anything very unpleasant, Nate. We saw that quick, crazy double pylon Photon Overcharge rush early today here. But that was a game they actually ended up losing. That was against Violet and Massa, of course, on Bridgehead. They just handled it very well, just did so much economic damage on the other side of the map. And, if your mothership core is Photon Overcharging pylons on the other side of the map, well, that's great, but you also need something at home. And defending against drops becomes very difficult if you don't have Photon Overcharge.
Yeah, and especially considering it's so much easier in the current build of Legacy of the Void to maneuver around those Photon Overcharged pylons. It really forces you as a Protoss to be decisive and, a little bit more intelligent about where you want to place those overcharges.
One thing I definitely take away from HUK and MC's plays, I love the way they're scouting with these adepts early on, right? Always sending the real adept in one direction and then sending the shade in the other one, and then at the last moment just transform to your shade. See if you can do something over here. There we see it again, this adept just blinking on top of that ramp. There are 4 or 5 Marines. They don't reveal themselves.
I mean, this is very similar to what they've been doing the whole day long. This looks exactly like how they opened up on Terraform. They have the 2 Hellions, the 6 Marines, Mind Match up. Honestly, it's funny because you start with so much income in Legacy of the Void. This looks the same as the 1 base build you do in Heart of the Swarm, which I'm very familiar with.
Nate, wouldn't it be crazy if they also bring a probe to the other side of the map and then drop a pylon in the main base and bring the Photon Overcharge too?
I mean, they did that earlier today. I wouldn't be surprised. The madness could continue. The offensive overcharges were a point of contention. That's why the radius got reduced.
I mean, obviously, with the opening that Bomber and MMA went for, they need to do some damage. Great wall up there, keeping those Hellions away. The Mothership Core is kind of caught in an awkward place. That Widowmine almost shot Nate. That would have changed everything. If you take out that Mothership Core, there is one pylon there. I would almost say right now, ignore the probes and go for that pylon immediately.
Yeah, if you shut down the ability to actually warp in or use the overcharge, you're in trouble. Oh no, there's the mine! The probes!
Oh my
8
God.
probes knocked down! Bomber and MMA, that mine breathes new life into this series for them.
And I mean, Photon Overcharge goes down, but they can just ignore it. There's no reason to be there anymore, as they already killed all the probes in the natural, so they can go to the main base again. 2 Adepts and 2 Stalkers should be enough, but what this did do is force defensive warp in, so now Bomber and MMA can focus all their attention on defending against this Prism. Just make sure that the Adept numbers don't spiral out of control here.
You said this earlier, Kev. It's exactly as you pointed out. It's like we don't actually have any warp-ins to use aggressively.
Nope. Widow Mines are over here as well, and just making it very difficult right now for HUK and MC to do the damage that they would have loved to do. And let's not forget, these Hellions are still alive, these Marines are still alive. Man, this is awesome multitasking right now between Bomber and MMA.
Yeah, this is such a tough spot to be in. They're going to throw these shadows right on top of the bio, trying to pick them up. This could actually bait them Widow Mines defensively into their own forces. They're doing a lot of damage, but is it enough, Kev?
I still feel that's okay. A lot of very low HP SCVs though, so you got to be so careful with that, because 1, 2 more, you know, Adepts weapons, and this can get a lot more dicey. But I feel so far it's still so good. There is a Viking in the mix right now that's going to finally shut down this Warp Prism play. These Marines are still active on the other side of the map as well. HUK and MC have secured a work lead for themselves, but they're not out of the woods just yet.
Yeah, that medevac is finally being pushed back, but there's a second one there with a few more Widow Mines. The Adepts are in the natural expansion, though. We're starting to see that SCV death count going higher and higher.
I love this. There's an observer there, though, to spot those mines. The idea is very cute, but these Stalkers should be able to take care of these mines. One of them will shoot, but Adepts are just so beefy and so tanky that in the end, HUK and MC still get out of this, Nate, in a pretty damn good scenario, because these
so
Adepts,
hard to kill.
Yeah, they're just still alive. They regenerate on their shields so quickly. These bio units are low on HP.
Yeah, I mean, these guys are the juggernauts of Legacy of the Void right now, and they are just gotten so much work done in this tournament all day long, crushing bio forces left and right. Twilight Council is finishing up. You mentioned it. They're way ahead on workers now.
Yeah, they do finally shut this down, but not before losing so many SCVs. I mean, there is Stim, so maybe there is a chance over here to do something. You know, getting those 3 pylons on top of the ramp was, again, another great decision, great crisis management. If they don't have it, they don't just have to worry about those Marines and the medevac. They have to worry about these Hellions as well. This time, they didn't have to worry about these Hellions, which just made life so much easier.
Yep. Got a big push out across the map. Widowmine somehow managed to slip their way into the natural expansion, getting about 7 or so probes there. So nice for them, but
I mean, Bomber and MMA, they're heavily up in army supply. It's 44 against 30, and let's not, well, actually they have combat shield. They don't have stim donate, but they do have plenty of medevac. So even when they don't stim, they should have quite a bit of endurance in this push. They need to keep it. Oh, imagine if they would have had stim here. They would have been able to snipe this Prism. They're still going to try, of course, but it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I like that they use the Prism, though, because the other thing is it can help to catch up to those medevacs if they're not boosted, so that the Stalkers can actually try to snipe those. And in this particular scenario, this mine drop is still a very difficult thing to deal with.
Yeah, Blink is not ready yet, I believe. It's 60-70% in. Modern MMA desperately looking for an opening. That Mothership Core is, of course, gathering a lot of energy, and that's going to make things a little bit more tricky. You know, if there's 3, 4, 5 photon overcharge available, this is going to be so hard to be very effective. More gateways going down, Nate. I won't be surprised at all if we're going to see massive Blink Stalker warp-ins on the other side of the map real soon.
Yeah, I get the impression that MC and HUK are looking to take either a big harass with this War Prism or just clean up this army and counterattack.
Viking?
There's one Viking here watching, waiting.
No.
Oh, War Prism looks like it's going to barely dodge it.
You're kidding me.
Oh, bad place to warp in, buddy.
Well, that's something, though. You know, at least they're going to be able to push it away for now. 1 photon overcharge will go down on this pylon. That's a lot of Blink Stalkers, by the way. Without Stim, I actually think you can out-micro that force if you have a good concave.
It's still going to be very difficult to do, as that choke point can get a little bit dicey with the force fields that can be thrown down. We also have to get in line, of course, the sentries.
Man,
Guardian Shield can be really nice for the Adepts.
Yeah, this is so good. Forward blink, and there's still no stim. Pick up the Marauders and heavy sniping for these Stalkers, Nate.
Yeah, phenomenal. Actually cleaning up all the bio. Now the War Prisms made it into the main base. 4 Adepts throw their shadows to the Naturals. The War Prisms still alive. They've cleaned up every last bio unit out on the map. Roddy, this counterattack could secure them the Battlegrounds 2015 championship.
The Adepts are killing all the SCVs. The Stalker took care of most of the Marines and Marauders. Even the Medivacs got sniped as well. There is a Ghost Academy going down. A little bit of counter-harassment on the other side of the map, but 74 army supply against 47. We got Adepts. There is a Sentry in the mix as well. I have no idea how Bomber and MMA are supposed to stop this Stalker force.
I think there's too much here. Kev, the War Prism is behind this as well. There's the force fields. The Guardian Shield popped up. GG is called. HUK and MC will be your Battlegrounds 2015 champions.
So dominant from start to finish. It just looked like they were never in true trouble. Even after dropping map number 1 here in the grand finals, the boys, they were so solid, Nate. They totally showed the power of Protoss right now in Legacy of the Void. All right.
Absolutely phenomenal finals to take it all here in the first big tournament for Legacy of the Void, Roddy.
Yeah,
coming together.
Great to see these two friends win this tournament. Like I said, they look so dominant from start to finish. And I'm so jealous, by the way, of that trophy. What a cool trophy. What a unique trophy.
Yeah, the trophy is much of an Archon as the teams participating in this series in 2015.
Look at that. That's a Brotos love right there, Nate. Brotos is for life.
Those are the faces of two men who did not rate each other as ones.
Awesome. I loved it, man. They showed some great builds. They showed great variety in their openings as well. And overall, I think they are the well-deserved champions of the Red Bull Battlegrounds 2015.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. And only great things ahead, I'd imagine now, Roddy.
Well, I'm curious to see where these two can go. I mean, both of them have been successful in both Wings of Liberty and Heart of the Swarm. And they already have a head start in Legacy of the Void.
Yeah, and I'm very excited to hear what they have to say. We've got them on the main stage with Total Biscuit.
Ladies and gentlemen, your champions of the Red Bull Battlegrounds, HUK and MC. HUK, I've got to ask you, you did drop a map in that series and things were looking pretty good for MMA and Bomber there for a moment. Were you at all worried when that occurred?
Yeah, I think Bomber and MMA proved that Terran can win. It's just a matter of defending the Warp Prism. But that being said, they didn't defend the Adept that well, so we still could, you know, make good games, and it was close. It was close. Even in that last game, I felt like it was pretty close until we pulled ahead.
축하드리고요. 일단 첫 번째 세트 지셨는데 아무래도 그거에 대해서 약간 걱정이 된다든지 뭐 그런 건 좀 없으셨나요?
It wasn't matter for us because one game lost is nothing, you know. First round, we lost first game too, so yeah, it doesn't matter.
3-1, 3-1.
A very strong finish and a great outing for your Archon team. I think the question is, Is this the last night for you as an Archon, or do you intend to play together in future?
We'll still play together, I guess. I mean, MC likes to stream a lot. I like to stream a lot. I think our viewers would enjoy it. So, you know, even if we weren't playing in this tournament, I think we'd still mess around and play games from time to time.
차은미 선수 이번 대회를 계기로 혹시 복귀의 생각이 있으신지요? 아니면 뭐 계속 방송으로 뭐 헉 선수랑 계속 경기를 더 한다든지 좀 이런 생각 있으신지요?
Maybe streaming, and if someone want to take me to team and good salary, yeah, I should be.
Because I asked him, you know, this would mark and return to the game.
Yeah, so if anyone's looking to pick up a great half of an Archon, then by all means. I think the other half's taken right now, though. We'll see if we can get him transferred out of his current team. Regardless, I would love to hear your final thoughts on Archon mode. How much have you enjoyed playing in Archon? Would it ever replace 1 versus 1 for you? And what kind of future do you think the mode has?
I don't think it'll replace 1v1, but it definitely has its feature. I would love to see it in StarCraft II events, as special show match and Pro League, that kind of thing. I would love to play more events Archon mode. As a player, it's very fun. It's not as nerve-wracking to play with someone else. I mean, even one of our games, we argued quite a bit. We had a pretty big falling out in one of the games, but all in all, it was a lot more fun to, you know, win with a friend than lose by myself or win by myself.
자, 플레이오프부터 해서 결승까지 집정관 모드로 쭉 하셨는데, sorry, I'll let the guys shoot. Sorry, guys. 집정관 모드로 대회를 이렇게 준비를 하시면서 뭐 지금 크리스 선수는 집정관 모드가 1대1을 대신하진 않을 것 같지만 이벤트전으로 많이 활용될 거라고 생각하는데 집정관 모드에 대해서 한 말씀 해주시죠.
I think Archon mode is very fun when I'm winning. If you lose, blame to each other, and I lost because of you. You did mistake.
Don't look at me, look at him, look at him.
Yeah, like that, you know? Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, if lose, friendship is broken, but if we win, yeah, good friendship.
And we don't want to keep you too much longer, but one final question. Do any of you have any words for this phenomenal audience that we've had in the house today?